Little Brother, Chapter 4, Cory Doctorow. They reshackled and rehooded me and left me there. A long time later, the truck started to move, rolling downhill, and then I was hauled back to my feet. I immediately fell over. My legs were so asleep they felt like blocks of ice, all except my knees, which were swollen and tender from all the hours of kneeling. Hands grabbed my shoulders and feet, and I was picked up like a sack of potatoes. There were indistinct voices around me, someone crying, someone cursing. I was carried a short distance, then set down and reshackled to another railing. My knees wouldn't support me anymore, and I pitched forward, ending up twisted on the ground, like a pretzel, straining against the chains, holding my arms. Then we were moving again, and this time it wasn't like driving in a truck. The floor beneath me rocked gently and vibrated with heavy diesel engines, and I realized I was on a ship. My stomach turned to ice. I was being taken off America's shores to somewhere else, and who knew where that was? I'd been scared before, but this thought terrified me, left me paralyzed and wordless with fear. I realized I might never see my parents again, and I actually tasted a little vomit burn my throat. The bag over my head closed in on me, and I could barely breathe, something that was compounded by the weird position I was twisted into. Mercifully, we weren't on the water very long. It felt like an hour, but I now know it was a mere 15 minutes. And then I felt us docking, felt footsteps on the decking around me, and felt the other prisoners being unshackled and carried or led away. When they came for me, I tried to stand again but couldn't. They carried me again, impersonally, roughly. When they took the hood off again, I was in a cell. The cell was old and crumbled and smelled of sea air. There was one window high up, and rusted bars guarded it. It was still dark outside. There was a blanket on the floor, and a little metal toilet without a seat set into the wall. The guard who took off my hood grinned at me and closed the solid steel door behind him. I gently massaged my legs, hissing as the blood came back into them and into my hands. Eventually I was able to stand and then to pace. I heard other people talking, crying, shouting. I did some shouting too. Holu! Daryl! Vanessa! Other voices on the cell block took up the cry, shouting out names too, shouting out obscenities. The nearest voices sounded like drunks losing their minds on a street corner. Maybe I sounded like that too. Guards shouted at us to be quiet, and that just made everyone yell louder. Eventually, we were all howling, screaming our heads off, screaming our throats raw. Why not? What did we have to lose? The next time they came to question me, I was filthy and tired, thirsty and hungry. Severe haircut lady was in the new questioning party, as were three big guys who moved me around like a cut of meat. One was black, the other two were white, although he might have been Hispanic. They all carried guns. It was like a Benetton's ad, crossed with a game of Counter-Strike. They'd taken me from my cell and chained my wrists and ankles together. I paid attention to my surroundings as we went. I heard water outside and thought that maybe we were on Alcatraz. Prison, after all, even if it had been a tourist attraction for generations, the place where you went to see where Al Capone and his gangster contemporaries did their time. But I'd been to Alcatraz on a school trip. It was old and rusted, medieval. This place felt like it dated back to World War II, not colonial times. There were barcodes laser printed on stickers and placed on each of the cell doors, and numbers. But other than that, there was no way to tell who or what might be behind them. The interrogation room was modern with fluorescent lights, ergonomic chairs, not for me though, I got a folding plastic garden chair, and a big wooden boardroom table. A mirror lined one wall, just like in the cop shows, and I figured someone or other must be watching from behind it. Severe haircut lady and her friends helped themselves to coffee from an urn on the side table. I could have torn her throat out with my teeth and taken her coffee just then, and then set a styrofoam cup of water down next to me, without unlocking my wrists from behind my back so I couldn't reach it. Hardy har har. Hello, Marcus, Severe haircut lady said. How's your tooth doing today? I didn't say anything. This isn't as bad as it gets, you know, she said. This is as good as it gets from now on. Even once you tell us what we want to know, even if that convinces us that you were just in the wrong place at the wrong time, you're a marked man now. We'll be watching you everywhere you go and everything you do. You've acted like you've got something to hide. We don't like that. It's pathetic, but all my brain could think about was that phrase, convince us you were in the wrong place at the wrong time. This was the worst thing that had ever happened to me. I had never, ever felt this bad, or this scared, before. Those words, wrong place at the wrong time, those 6 words, they were like a lifeline, dangling before me as I thrashed to stay on the surface. Hello, Marcus? She snapped her fingers in front of my face. Over here, Marcus. There was a little smile on her face, and I hated myself for letting her see my fear. Marcus, it can be a lot worse than this. This isn't the worst place we can put you, not by a long sight. She reached down below the table and came out with a briefcase, which she snapped open. From it, she withdrew my phone, my ARFID sniper cloner, my Wi-Finder, and my memory keys. She set them down on the table, one after the other. Here's what we want from you. You unlock the phone for us today. If you do that, you'll get outdoor and bathing privileges. You'll get a shower, and you'll be allowed to walk around in the exercise unit. Tomorrow, we'll bring you back and ask you to decrypt the data on these memory sticks. Do that, and you'll get to eat in the mess hall. The day after, we're going to want your email passwords, and that will get you library privileges. The word no was on my lips, like a burp trying to come up, but it wouldn't come. Why? Is what came out instead. We want to be sure that you're what you seem to be. This is about your security, Marcus. Say you're innocent. You might be, though why an innocent man would act like he's got so much to hide is beyond me. But say you are. You could have been on that bridge when it blew. Your parents could have been. Your friends. Don't you want us to catch the people who attacked your home? It's funny, but when she was talking about my getting privileges, it scared me into submission. I felt like I'd done something to end up where I was, like maybe it was partially my fault, like maybe I could do something to change it. But as soon as she switched to this BS about safety and security, my spine came back. Lady, I said, you're talking about attacking my home, but as far as I can tell, you're the only one who's attacked me lately. I thought I lived in a country with a constitution. I thought I lived in a country where I had rights. You're talking about defending my freedom by tearing up the Bill of Rights. A flicker of annoyance passed over her face, then went away. So melodramatic, Marcus. No one's attacked you. You've been detained by your country's government while we seek details on the worst terrorist attack ever perpetrated on our nation's soil. You have it within your power to help us fight this war on our nation's enemies. You want to preserve the Bill of Rights? Help us stop bad people from blowing up your city. Now you have exactly 30 seconds to unlock this phone before I send you back to your cell. We have lots of other people to interview today. She looked at her watch. I rattled my wrists, rattled the chains that kept me from reaching around and unlocking the phone. Yes, I was going to do it. She told me what my path was to freedom, to the world, to my parents, and that had given me hope. Now she'd threatened to send me away, take me off that path, and my hope had crashed, and all I could think of was how to get back on it. So I rattled my wrists, wanting to get my phone and unlock it for her. And she just looked at me coldly, checking her watch. The password, I said, finally understanding what she wanted of me. She wanted me to say it out loud, here, where she could record it, where her pals could hear it. She didn't want me to just unlock the phone. She wanted me to submit to her, to put her in charge of me, to give up every secret, all my privacy. The password, I said again, and then I told her the password. God help me, I submitted to her will. She smiled a prim little smile, which had to be her ice cream equivalent of a touchdown dance, and the guards led me away. As the door closed, I saw her bend down over the phone and key the password in. I wish I could say that I'd anticipated this possibility in advance and created a fake password that unlocked a completely innocuous partition to my phone. But I wasn't nearly that paranoid or that clever. You might be wondering at this point what dark secrets I had locked away on my phone and memory sticks and email. I'm just a kid, after all. The truth is that I had everything to hide, and nothing. Between my phone and my memory sticks, you could get a pretty good idea of who my friends were, what I thought of them, all the goofy things we'd done. You could read the transcripts of the electronic arguments we'd carried out and the electronic reconciliations we'd arrived at. You see, I don't delete stuff. Why would I? Storage is cheap, and you never know when you're going to want to go back to that stuff, especially the stupid stuff. You know that feeling you get sometimes when you're sitting on the subway and there's no one to talk to, and you suddenly remember some bitter fight you had, some terrible thing you said? Well, it's usually never as bad as you remember. Being able to go back to see it again is a great way to remind yourself you're not as horrible a person as you think you are. Daryl and I have gotten over more fights that way than I can count. And even that's not it. I know my phone is private. I know my memory sticks are private. That's because of cryptography, meaning scrambling. The math behind crypto is good and solid, and you and me get access to the same crypto that the banks and the National Security Agency use. There's only one kind of crypto that anyone uses. Crypto that's public, open, and can be deployed by anyone. That's how you know it works. There's something really liberating about having some corner in your life that's yours, that no one gets to see except you. It's a little like nudity or pooping. Everyone gets naked every once in a while. Everyone has to go to the toilet. That's nothing shameful, deviant, or weird. But what if I decreed that from now on, every time you did those things, you had to do it in a glass room in the middle of Times Square? Even if you got nothing wrong or weird with your body, and how many of us can say that, you'd have to be pretty strange to like that idea. Most of us would run screaming. Most of us would hold it in until we exploded. It's not about doing something shameful. It's about doing something private. It's about your life belonging to you. They were taking that from me, piece by piece. As I walked back to my cell, that feeling of deserving it came back to me. I'd broken a lot of rules all my life, and I'd gotten away with it by and large. Maybe this was justice. Maybe this was my past coming back to me. After all, I had been where I was because I'd snuck out of school. I got my shower, I got to walk around the yard. There was a patch of sky overhead, and it smelled like the Bay Area, but beyond that I had no clue where I was being held. No other prisoners were visible during my exercise period, and I got pretty bored with walking in circles. I strained my ears for any sound that might help me understand what this place was. But all I heard was the occasional vehicle, some distant conversations, a plane landing somewhere nearby. They brought me back to my cell and fed me. A half a pepperoni pie from Goat Hill Pizza, which I knew well. Up on Potrero Hill, the carton with its familiar graphic and 415 phone number was a reminder that only a day before I'd been a free man in a free country, and that now I was a prisoner. I worried constantly about Daryl and fretted about my other friends. Maybe they'd been more cooperative and had been released. Maybe they'd told my parents, and maybe they were frantically calling around. Maybe not. The cell was fantastically spare, empty as my soul. I fantasized that the wall opposite my bunk was a screen that I could be hacking right now. Opening the cell door, I fantasized about my workbench and my projects there. Old cans I was turning into a surround sound rig, the aerial photography kite cam I was building, my homebrew laptop. I wanted to get out of there. I wanted to go home and have my friends and my school and my parents and my life back. I wanted to be able to go where I wanted to go, not be stuck pacing and pacing and pacing.